Take a look at the first half stats, and really they speak for themselves. CBC with 3 more made field goals and 10 more attempted shots. They've had a lot more chances thanks to their defense and transition game led by Larry Hughes.
Key stat there, 2 of 11 from three-point range for a good shooting Truman team.
Yeah, that's not going to win much for them at all. Now let's take a look at the recap from the other action around the Hearn Center this weekend. Class 3A boys, Webb City will play for a state title against Chillicothe following semifinal victories. As for the rest of the scores, Class 3A girls, Marshfield will play against Rosary for a 3A girls state title. And of course in Class 4A, the boys, CBC and Truman, we're enjoying right now. And the 4A girls, Jackson plays Gateway later today for a state title.
And what's particularly interesting about Rosary is their head coach is Ron Sanford, who coached this CBC team last year and is a teacher at CBC, got out and is coaching now a potential state champion at Rosary. All right, we are back. Bartoni, Hughes, Ryan Johnson, Tatum, and Stricker for CBC on the offensive end. Hughes being hawked by Dombrowski. It's the same starting 5 for Truman also. Going into a half-court trapping defense, Ryan Johnson drives the lane and he got fouled.
Looks like a triangle in 2 defense possibly, Frank, with 2 players all over Larry Hughes and the other 3 playing basically a zone. So I believe it's a triangle too, what Truman's doing defensively here. Watch Larry Hughes and then 2 players. Actually, that's Ryan Johnson there, and the players just collapse defensively inside as they would. But when Larry Hughes is being followed around the floor by 2 defenders, now we'll pick that up hopefully next time CBC has the ball.
And what they want him to do is pick up his dribble and give it up. So what's going to happen for CBC is the Strickers, the Bartonis, the Ryan Johnsons, and maybe Justin Tatum's will get more open looks. So it's the same starting 5 for Truman with Moeller, Andes, Dombrowski, Palmer, and Zuber. 30-19.
And again, Truman had a double-digit deficit in the semifinal game yesterday against Vashon and came back to win. So don't count the Patriots out by any means with their shooting ability, although we haven't seen the shooting touch yet today from them.
Andes is not a shooter, but the coach calls him the blood and guts of his team. Hughes deflected the pass. Bartoni picked it up. Johnson across the timeline. Tatum was open down low. Still is. Has the ball.
Right there, grabbing, right there. On the floor.
They'll call a foul before Justin Tatum released the basketball.
And that is on Will Palmer, and he just cannot stay out of foul trouble. It's a quick number 4 on him. We're less than a minute into the second half, and it's tough enough to beat a CBC team, but when your best player's in foul trouble from the get-go, it's making it that much more difficult.
Coach Broughton has not made a substitution yet. Maybe he figures it's 30-19. I got to have him in the game.
Could be.
Bartoni from 12 missed it. Marriott's going to check in shortly, probably for Palmer.
Great team defense by CBC for the trap in the corner, and here's the turnover now.
Johnson got fouled by Dusty. And there is a player down on the floor. Aaron Bartoni has not moved since that collision on the loose ball. Bartoni, a 6-foot senior guard.
Looks like he really got knocked. There was a scramble for the loose basketball and the turnover there, and we'll get a look at some of the action here and see what happens to Bartoni, number 12. There, knocked the ball away initially, then went to the hardwood along with the Truman player, and hard to see what happened to him exactly, Frank, as he's on his back there. This might be a better look now from above. Bartoni really sandwiched in between 2 players. That's what happened.
Yeah,
like he took an inadvertent elbow to the face, and that'll send anyone for a loop for a little while. Boy, that was a tough shot. One guy got him going down, and the other guy with the elbow, and Aaron's trying to make sure all the parts are still there right now.
His head collided with the elbow of Brian Moeller. Bob McCormick, the head coach, is out on the floor right now.
Interesting, as I look at Bartoni, you see on his left shoulder, folks, the sticker with the initials of Larry Hughes' little brother Justin, and the motivating factor that he's been for this basketball team all season long. And now very good hand from the kind fans at the Hearn Center for Aaron Bartoni, who's getting up slowly but surely, it appears.
So it's 6:37 left in the third quarter, and CBC leads at 30-19. And Bartoni gets a real ovation.
That's good to see, because he really took a shot to the noggin fighting for the ball. He is watch the player drape with him, but then in from the other side comes Moeller, who inadvertently catches him right on the side of the face. And bends his body back, too. We're lucky that Bartoni is as good as he is and able to get up off the court. It doesn't look too good, but he'll feel better eventually, I can tell you that.
Danny Sheehan, number 34, checks into the game. As we've mentioned before, he had some big moments in the quarterfinals and the semifinals. Tatum down low, can't stop it. 32-19 CBC.
Biggest lead now for CBC, trying to blow this one open.
Great move down low by Dombrowski. Justin Tatum tried to get the block, but some good blue-collar work by Dombrowski.
Good job of handling the full court pressure by CBC. Ryan Johnson stepped to the middle of the court to receive that pass.
Marriott got the steal. Andy's across the timeline. Has Dombrowski on the right. Will take it himself with the left hand. Missed it. Moeller tried to get the rebound. CBC knocked it out of bounds. It will remain Truman ball.
Truman forcing the issue now, picking up the pace. I thought they might do this a little earlier. It worked for them very well against Vashon in the semifinal victory here yesterday.
Got two over here.
Somebody's going to have to step up and hit some big threes for Truman. Marriott can, Moeller has before. This is Andy's. He's not a real shooter.
Yeah, CBC leaves him wide open, don't they, at the top?
Dombrowski couldn't get the foul, but the foul is on Stricker. And that will be his third foul.
You know, I find myself just wanting to see a little more offensively from Truman, but you realize you sit here and say that, and their big guy, Will Palmer, saddled on the bench with 4 fouls, and that's 19 points a game there out of action for them.
CBC deflected the inbound pass, and they'll take it across the timeline. Yeah, their margin of error, Chris, coming in was not great playing against a real talented team. Then you lose your best player, you're in trouble.
Really handcuffed.
Hughes from 3. Got it. Larry Hughes is showing the state why he's a McDonald's All-American.
Well, he's the difference right now in this game. We thought it might be the case coming in.
Tatum knocked it loose. They wanted the foul. They didn't get it. Hughes again behind the back in rush hour traffic. In the bucket. Now they're going to call the offensive charge. Boy, regardless of whether that ball went in or not, how about that behind-the-back dribble on the dead run? Now, here's the foul.
I think it's worth another look. That's the defensive steal. Now, here comes Hughes over the timeline. Take a look at this. Excuse me, wow. As he gets by a couple of them, then goes up, and I think that's a good call.
Good call.
Had position and did give Hughes enough space, so I think that's a good call.
He was set. Tatum grabs the loose ball, and the foul is going to be on Dusty Andes. The officials for the day have been outstanding. Mike Calvert, who's from Versailles, Missouri, and Robert Burr from Neosha. There's Robert right there.
And you see Mike Calvert with the ball. These two gentlemen earn their way here just like the teams do. They are outstanding. I've seen Mike Calvert work a lot of games here in the central Missouri area and very deserving of his honor, in my opinion.
So Misha has done a nice job in selecting their officials for this state championship game.
Yeah, no problems today at all with the officiating.
Not one questionable call. Hughes got fouled by Murray.
Well, Larry Hughes, I mean, it's nice to have the ball in his hands, isn't it? If you're Coach Bob McCormick, you have a 14-point lead, you have Hughes on the court with the ball, having a big championship game, and yesterday had a big game against Rockbridge when he pumped in 28 points. He's halfway there to that total with his adding today, 14 already.
Last night, Bob McCormick asked the seniors if they'd like to go out on the town for a little bit, relax. Larry Hughes, Justin Tatum, Aaron Bartoni, the senior, said, no, we want to stay at the hotel. And that was the answer Bob McCormick wanted to hear. They had a brief meeting in his hotel room, and they got to bed early.
Yeah, didn't want to go out to dinner. Said they'd stay at the hotel and be together and eat there.
They will call a foul on Justin Tatum. That will be his second.
Tatum, of course, adding 9 points to the effort. Here's the foul now. Good, strong move to the basket. by Truman's Dusty Andes. Again, that's what you really need to see more of from Truman. They've got to kind of force the issue offensively. The passing around the perimeter is not resulting in points. Their shooting is off, so they've got to take the initiative now and try to get it inside and create some open shots for one another with a little dribble penetration.
Dusty, a 58% free throw shooter, gets nothing but net. Pretty good crowd here at the Hearn Center again. It was spectacular yesterday at 9 a.m. where you had about 8,000 people. It looks like it's equal to that today.
Yeah, that would be my guess, having seen a few Hearn Center crowds over the years. I think 8,000 is an accurate estimate there, Frank. Well, Coach Broughton now realizes he has his hands full, down 13 halfway through the third period. It's a long way back for Truman here.
Larry, crossover in the air, shot an air ball. Rebound, Dombrowski. He'll hear about it from the crowd. Here's Marriott. Roberts would like to pull the trigger, but CBC continues to shade him. Andes drives.
Oh.
Justin said, get it out. Ryan Johnson. Stricker. Justin down low. Fade away from 6. Missed it. Nice rebound by Zuber. Beautiful move by Marriott.
Well, there's the strong move to the basket we've been looking for. Marriott with a good drive. These last two times, Truman really seems to be pushing it a little bit more. They've just got to be more aggressive. The last time, we'll see the bucket here. Just a strong, hard move to the goal. And if you don't get it to go, you're probably going to get a foul eventually on a guy like Tatum who likes to go over and block shots. So that time they got the bucket and the foul. All the better for Truman.
So Chris Marriott has a chance to make it a three-point play. Missed it. 36-25, 3:29 to go. And that trapping man-to-man half-court defense. Sheehan's shot was rejected by Marriott.
Marriott with some shot blocking of his own. He's really come to play. This young man impressed me today for the Truman Patriots, Chris Marriott.
Okay, there is a break in the action. 36-25 with 3 minutes and 13 seconds to go in the third. The Misha Class 4A Championship basketball game will continue after these messages from your local stations. Back at the Hearn Center, and this man is simply the story of this basketball game, Chris.
Well, you're charged with trying to defend Larry Hughes. And he'll just get a nice screen here. His teammates know who the man is. It's number 20, pulls up, buries the three-pointer. You get out and try to get in his jersey defensively. He'll blow by you with that dribble and go to the hole. He is a double threat offensively, one of the best high school players you'll ever see, really.
2 of 3 from three-point shooting range in this basketball game. 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And we're midway through the third.
Yeah, not a bad day's work, let alone a game, half a game plus.
Bartoni back in. Sheehan goes back to the bench. Hughes on the baseline, guarded by Dombrowski.
Look at the quick step, the first dribble to beat his
offensive foul, though. That'll be his third.
That didn't get rid of the ball early enough. He blew by the first defender, but then committed the charge. And Larry's not in agreement with the call. Third foul. Still time, too, so he's got to be careful here. He doesn't want to pick up a quick fourth. But watch Truman step over defensively. Both defenders there and plants it. Again, good call, and it's hard for me to find trouble with that.
They could give him a double foul. He knocked over 2 guys. Great defense by Truman. Fundamentally very sound.
Yep.
Zuber on the baseline of Dombrowski.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
Drills it.
That's the way to do it. Send the ball in, have the defense collapse, then give a man an open look for 3. That was better execution offensively than we saw in the first half.
36-28. A three-point shooting team is never out of a basketball game. Stricker. Threw it away.
The defense stepping up a bit for the Patriots as they try to climb back in it, Frank.
Oh. Dusty Andes runs into Larry Hughes. Hughes was not set. That is foul number 4. And suddenly we have a big moment in this basketball game. Larry Hughes commits his 4th foul.
Boy, how things can change, Frank, in a hurry. We just said he's got to avoid getting the 4th foul. And lo and behold, less than a minute later, here's number 4, Larry sliding over. And no way is he set there. He just didn't give his man any room. trying to come in from the side. That's a foul. It's number 4 on Hughes, and suddenly Truman's back in it. Look at this. You draw 2 defenders down low. Somebody's open on the perimeter, and indeed it's the shooter Roberts who buries a three-pointer. Truman right back in it, folks.
36-28, 1:55 to go. Hughes is on the bench. Sheehan is back in the game. Dusty Andes. They got both shooters, Marriott and Roberts, on the wings, and their guns are loaded. Andes. Roberts pulls the trigger on that gun. Missed it. Tatum with the rebound. Had Stricker deep on a post pattern, but gives it back to his cousin, Ryan Johnson.
How big for CBC to have that big guy, Justin Tatum, in there cleaning the boards.
Stricker got knocked down. No call. The foul is on Roberts. He grabbed Ryan Johnson.
Well, the intensity and the noise level in the Hearn Center has picked up a little bit this last minute to minute and a half of play. Both coaches eyeing the scoreboard and realizing it's still anybody's game with more than a full period of action left.
Ryan Johnson, guarded by Roberts. Another foul on Roberts. That'll be his 4th. Hasn't played that many minutes, already has picked up 4 fouls. But this is a guy who is big at crunch time for Truman. District finals, 16 points. Semifinals, 22 points.
He's been in double figures off the bench, big shooter, so they need him in there offensively. They don't want him to foul out and get himself in big trouble on the defensive end, because they need his shooting ability here as they trail in the second half.
Danny Sheehan, nothing but net. This is a nice-looking player off the bench. At a lot of teams, he'd be playing 32 minutes a game. With CBC, he's had to come off the bench, but Bob McCormick is real proud of this young man. Got them both. 38-28, minute to go in the 3rd. Marriott from 3. Missed it. Rebound Tatum. This is a big stretch for CBC.
They'd like to get to the 4th period with this same margin of 10 points and then bring Hughes back in for the final 8 minutes, I would suspect.
Ryan Johnson, very deliberate, very patient without Larry in the game. They may want to hold it for 1.
Wouldn't be a bad idea with a 10-point lead, 35 seconds to go.
Clock at 35. They call this their Kentucky delay. This was not from Rick Pitino, it's from Joby Hall. I don't think
Pitino doesn't delay.
No.
He doesn't know what the word means.
They don't have a delay in their offense. Well, this Dusty Andes really gets out and guards some people. 13 seconds. Sheehan's wide open. Great pass to Tatum. A little bit hard. Went off Justin's hands.
I think Justin Tatum expected the shot to go up as opposed to a pass. He was as surprised as anyone, but nice ball movement. They got the point-blank shot that they wanted, just couldn't get it off.
There's Larry Hughes. He'll be back in shortly. 5 seconds to go in this quarter. Andes drives the lane. Made the shot.
What a drive to avoid Tatum, the big guy underneath. Big basket. And Truman, I believe, serving notice that they are still in this game entering the final period.
CBC leads it 38-30. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back after this. And welcome back to the 4th quarter of the Misha Class 4A State Championship game, and a beautiful move by Andes here, Chris.
Big momentum boost, I believe, for Truman. Andes with time ticking down, goes right down the lane and around Tatum, who had position, put his arms up well defensively, but Andes known for his defense. That's why he's in the lineup. Big offensive thrust there. Truman back within 8 and the ball to start the final period. CBC went the final 5:17 of the 3rd quarter without a field goal, too.
Larry Hughes is back in, so is Brian Mueller. Roberts is open.
Will Palmer back in for Truman here with 4 fouls as well. He's their top guy.
This is Brian Mueller.
He hit a couple of big 3-pointers in the semifinal comeback against Vashon. Mueller did.
Tatum blocked it. Beautiful block on Will Palmer. Dombrowski has the unenviable task of guarding Larry Hughes. Larry's got to be careful, though, when he gets in the air, because there's going to be some people trying to draw the charge. Ryan Johnson had an open 17-footer, won't shoot it. Patience is a virtue right now for this CBC team, although they don't want to go into an out-and-out stall. Interesting matchup. Palmer will guard Bartoni.
Palmer's staying way off, and they're really double-teaming Tatum and leaving Bartoni alone out beyond the three-point arc. Hughes will bring it back out. CBC will be content to run some time with an 8-point lead. Truman may have to really come out more defensively here to try to get a turnover and make CBC do something.
Larry wanted the call, didn't get it. There was contact, but maybe not enough to merit a foul.
Bob McCormick is asking for it on the sideline there.
This is a pretty crafty ball handling team.
This guy in particular.
Hughes got fouled, I believe, before the shot. They may have called it on the shot. It was a quick whistle. 1-1.
Well, no reason for CBC to rush. As we mentioned, they've got the lead by 8 points here, and we're already under 6 minutes to go. So a 2-minute possession right there for CBC. And you see the coach, Bob McCormick.
You see there's a little microphone on his tie. A production company in St. Louis has been taping the CBC season the entire year, and they're putting together a documentary that they'd like to sell to PBS one day. And it certainly has been a thrilling year if you factor in they're in the state finals, the courageous story of Justin Hughes. 40-30, 5:50 to go. Palmer underneath.
Well, there's the workhorse. There's Will Palmer inside doing what he does best, rebounding and getting good looks at the basket. Again, Truman's offense has really come alive this half. Much better ball movement, much better movement away from the basketball to get themselves good looks offensively. Take a look at the interior passing. Palmer, one bounce, goes up strong, won't be denied a second try, gets it back and draws the foul, and now he has a chance to make up some ground for his team with the clock stopped at the free throw line.
This is just a good-looking player. I mean, this guy is 6'6", 215 pounds, got a feathery touch. He can go inside, and we've seen him run the floor already today. It's a shame that this game has not showcased his talents a little bit more since he's been in foul trouble.
It's really been a key, and that's part of the game. You give Justin Tatum and the CBC kids credit for that, but 5 points, 4 rebounds are well below his averages of 19.5 points and about 8 rebounds per game.
So Dombrowski, the good athlete, guards Larry Hughes. Shot selection, very key right now for CBC.
Again, no hurry for CBC offensively. Very patient here, and Truman, sooner or later, and the sooner the better for them, is going to have to come out and really, really force the issue defensively now, because time is against them as we're under 5 to go.
Unless it's an open look for Stricker, you can be assured that the only people shooting the basketball will be Hughes or Tatum.
I agree with you. Bartoni doesn't seem to be much of an offensive threat. Look at that dribble. Eliminates one guy off the floor, Hughes does.
There's an open look. Oh, just missed it. This is Moeller. Zuber had it, lost it. Palmer picked it up, missed it. Bartoni got the rebound and wisely held up. He's made some good decisions this weekend. Now they're going to double Hughes, make him give it up. Ryan Johnson will hold it out.
You see Palmer now way out top. It's kind of a game of run and chase anymore defensively for Truman as they try to come back. Oh, almost had to steal there, but the call for a foul against Hughes before the pass.
Foul on Dombrowski. He didn't like the call. And when you think about it, Chris, CBC is an ideal team to go into a delay game. Here's the foul right here on Dombrowski. See if he pushed him.
Bumped him a little bit.
Marriott checks in, Palmer checks out. But they're the ideal team to go into a delay game because they basically have 4 guards out there. Ryan Johnson, Bartoni, Larry Hughes, and Stricker. And as we've seen, Tatum's pretty crafty with the basketball, too.
They just pull everybody out in a situation like this. It's not rocket science, is it, when you're protecting a lead late in the game? Just keep the ball moving, stay out away from the basket, and space yourselves out around the court. Make the defense chase you and commit a foul, as the case was there.
Larry knocked them both down. 42-31, 4 minutes to go. They need some threes. Dusty Andes thought about it. So did Moeller.
Very impressed with his zone defense for CBC. It has certainly served its purpose today, limiting Truman to 31 points here total as we near the late minutes of the game.
There is a break in the action with 3:35 to go in this state championship basketball game. CBC leads it 42-31. The Misha Class 4A championship basketball game will continue after these messages from your local stations. And welcome back. 3 minutes and 35 seconds to go. CBC leads at 42-31, but as we've mentioned, this one is far from over with the three-point shooting threats that Truman has.
Mama there.
There's Vanessa Hughes, a woman who has been through quite a bit this season. Her son Justin recovering from heart transplant surgery now. Her other son Larry Hughes just 3 minutes and 35 seconds away maybe from a state title. But in the meantime, Roberts missed a 3. Marriott missed a putback. Justin Tatum has the rebound.
And a foul called against Truman. It looks like Tatum now with 12 rebounds to go along with his 9 points, 2 block shots, and 2 steals. And you see the shooting percentage. CBC much better than Truman, and coincidentally 11 points better on the scoreboard, as well as the percentage points for field goal shooting.
Now some full court pressure here. Hughes double team, gives to Bartoni. Here's Stricker. Ryan Johnson thought about it, wisely held up. Would have shot that ball 2 months ago. He has really grown. 42-31. Here's Hughes. Lost it.
You know, Larry thinks a lot of Ryan Johnson and Strickland. Thinks those two guys have potential to play Division I college ball like he and Tatum will next year. He says if they keep growing and improving and work hard and follow my example, they too could be college players. He really thinks a lot and wants to take care of his teammates here.
Well, Stricker will play Division I ball, but I think it's going to be football. And it may be here at Missouri in a couple of years. He's an outstanding running back, defensive back at CBC. Foul on Marriott.
Well, they're really reduced to that now. The Truman Patriots trailing by 11, a little more than 2.5 minutes to go. It's pretty much foul and put Hughes on the line. And that is the one weakness he has. Just a 50% shooter from the stripe today, 4 of 8. And that's how frustrating it is when you're so close to a state title, as Steve Broughton has taken his team here to the final game after a Final Four appearance last year. But Truman can sense that it is an uphill battle here entering the final 2.5 minutes. You know, if Hughes can improve his free throw shooting, and Lord knows Charlie Spooner, I'm sure in St. Louis you will have him working on that, he can score that many more points, because the way he handles the ball and goes to the goal aggressively, he'll be put on the line on numerous occasions the next 4 years. So if he can work on that free throw shooting, and it's really concentration and repetition, he can be a big time scorer at the major college level.
He is certainly not a great pure shooter yet, but his shooting throughout the season has progressed. 43-31. Moeller. Rebound, Justin Tatum. Foul on Moeller.
Well, Tatum is doing his job too. You know, Larry Hughes gets a lot of the attention, deservedly so, but this Justin Tatum really does the hard work underneath on the boards. 13 rebounds, 9 points, a very nice inside compliment to the outside game of Hughes.
Meanwhile, Will Palmer checks out of the game. This is not the Will Palmer that played so well for Truman throughout the entire season. He just got into foul trouble and he fouls out. It's a tough break for a junior, but he'll be back.
Yeah, that's great news for Coach Steve Broughton, that he'll have his big fella back next year. And again, the coach before us told us very clearly that's our best player. He was not embarrassed or ashamed to say that Will Palmer, number 52, deserves the attention singled out for his efforts this year. Tough one today, though, for Big Will, but he might be back with Truman next year. They've been to the Final Four 2 years in a row. Maybe he'll make it 3. Third time's a charm, they say.
Justin Tatum has a chance for a double-double if he knocks down this free throw. Got it.
Double dribble there on Moeller. Again, the hurriedness offensively now causing that turnover as Moeller lost the handle on the ball. And Bob McCormick, a little more than 2 minutes away from a state title at CBC, their first one in a
since
long
1963.
time. Yes. You remember that one, don't you?
Yeah.
They'll remember this one, I'll guarantee you that. Bob McCormick sure will.
Hughes, the alley-oop to Tatum. Justin was just too far away from the basket. And they'll call the foul on Dombrowski. It would have been a showstopper.
Well, they had one yesterday. Ryan Johnson set up Tatum. Here's Hughes' effort, a little bit too far from the basket, though, especially when you have a blue jersey between you. And there's the aftermath there. Guys getting physical, but not stepping over the boundaries there. Nice separation by the players, and the officials step in to prevent anything from happening.
2 minutes and 15 seconds left in this one. Tatum with 11. Moeller across the timeline. CBC drops back into a 2-1-2 zone defense. This is Dombrowski. Hughes blocked it. Bartroni caught it. Look at that dribble. The foul is on Moeller. I don't know if we can see this one again, but he even makes dribbling the basketball exciting.
He's being fun to watch, isn't he?
Now watch this. He's being double and basically triple teamed, takes it behind the back, never lost a dribble and got out of there.
And keeps it so low to the ground, it's almost impossible to steal defensively. You know, really has that dribble under control. A lot of times guys will get flashy, try to do fancy things, but the ball is loose around there. That ball is so tight with his palm and the hardwood. I mean, it's impossible to get in there and get the steal.
In our 3 years of doing these state championship games together, Chris, we've seen the great players step up and have the great games. 2 years ago, Ryan Robertson and St. Charles West. Last year, Parker and Decker from Webster Groves. And now Hughes and Tatum.
Never fails, does it? The great players step up in the great moments, the big games.
Foul on Justin. It'll be his third.
And, you know, we really ought to, again, compliment this CBC effort defensively, because they have limited Truman to 31 points, clearly a season low. And you see Tatum come over and that time commit the foul, but his presence inside cannot be talked about enough. He has really made things difficult for Coach Broughton's Truman Patriots today, as they are just at 31, trailing 47-31, under 2 minutes to go in the game now.
Truman came into this game with a gaudy 14-game winning streak. CBC had won 13 in a row.
That's Doug Roberts knocking in a couple of free throws there. He had the big ball game 22 off the bench yesterday to lead his team to this championship game, but here's it'll be a little too late today in this comeback bid. Going to fall short for Truman, much to the credit of CBC and the fact that they have Larry Hughes handling the ball so often for them, and really a guy to keep them out of any trouble in terms of a Truman rally.
Hughes guarded by Dusty Andes. They're going to be patient. It hasn't been a real pretty fourth quarter in terms of highlights. I may have spoke too soon. No, ball knocked out of bounds. It hasn't been a pretty fourth quarter in terms of highlights, but Chris, CBC's got to do what they have to do. You know, milk the clock, bring the state championship back to St. Louis.
Hey, the state trophy looks just as good regardless of how pretty the fourth quarter was. And they came in with an 8-point lead. They've stretched it now to 14 with a minute and a half left. So they have done their job very admirably this fourth period, CBC.
Hughes to the glass. Got fouled.
There's Mom, and She looked a little nervous last time. I think a little more comfortable now as the minutes have ticked off the clock.
There have been quite a few occasions that Vanessa Hughes simply could not watch a basketball game, and she had to leave the gym area for a couple of moments because she was so nervous.
You'd never know who she was cheering for, would you? If the color of the jersey wasn't enough, then the big number 20 and then the pin of her son, but she should wear that pin very proudly. Look at those guys. Hey, that guy's hair looked like yours, Frank. You see that purple afro there in the crowd? I would have thought that was you if you weren't next to me.
Larry Hughes with 23 points now. Make it 24.
Again, an aggressive zone defense from CBC, shading the shooters, making life miserable offensively for Truman here today. They just have never gotten in a rhythm, no consistency offensively for the Patriots.
.54 seconds to go now. And Bob McCormick is going to reward some of the players who've worked so hard in practice to fine-tune this future state champion. Number 14, Matt Pruitt checks in. Number 10, Jeff Lott checks in. And number 42, Don Lee checks in.
And for Truman as well, a couple of substitutions. Steve Broughton giving his players a chance to get a feel of what it's like here at the Hearn Center in this Final Four atmosphere. And you have to admire the moves on both coaching staffs' parts to get a lot of people into this game and enjoy this, for some people, once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Jeff Baker, Jason Brady in. Number 50, Hal Odom also checks in.
Well, I think Truman is serving notice, though, in the Kansas City area that there's a new team to be reckoned with. 2 years in the running, they make it to the Final Four, and who's to say they can't come back next year? But they really turned a lot of heads with a win over Raytown South and then Hickman Mills to get to this point. And Steve Broughton, one step closer this year. Maybe next year will be the time for him. He's got Will Palmer and others returning.
And listen to the applause as Justin Tatum checks out. Colin Hedican checks into the game, and if Larry Hughes makes this shot, there'll be a break, and you'll hear an ovation like you've never heard it here at the Hearn Center today. It's the end of a high school career for Larry Hughes. Tim McDaniel checks in, and look at that scene. They've waited a long time at CBC for this state championship, and they're 37 seconds away from officially winning it. Odom hits the turnaround.
It's nice to see. The new guy comes into the ballgame, hits his first shot. He'll remember that.
It's time to get the box score for one of these players. They can tell their grandkids about it. This is Locke, a clever little player who had 11 three-pointers in a JV game. They like his future. 3-2-1, and CBC has won their first state championship since 1963. Enjoy the moment. The pressure was on them since November 4th when they began practice. Everybody said they must win, and they have won. And now they're going to celebrate this moment with their fans. They're up into the stands.
Taking a page out of the Green Bay Packers book.
Larry Hughes is being mobbed. What a great moment. They've waited a long time for this one. There's Vanessa Hughes. Nobody's had a year like she's had. She deserves this moment.
Well, we've talked about it a lot over the years doing these games and even preparing for these games. There's nothing like the genuine enthusiasm and exuberance that you witness, Frank, at these high school sporting events. I mean, it is sport in its purest sense of form, and to see the excitement and reaction and emotion displayed, not only by the kids on the court, but the kids like you see there in the stands and the family members, is really exciting. It's really what makes it fun.
The CBC faithful have supported their team like few others in this state all season long. Packed houses nearly every regular season game. They're never going to forget it either. A state championship comes around once in a lifetime. There's Bob McCormick. Earlier this year, his wife gave birth to a baby. Now McCormick brings life to a basketball program.
Little boy, 6 weeks old. I asked him how he slept last night. Coach McCormick, he said, I was fine, and so was the baby. Made it for an easy night. No nerves there, and the baby slept well, too. So very, very easy to prepare and be well rested for this championship run today.
We will take a short break, and we're going to come back and we're going to do some interviews. But CBC is your 1997 state champion with a 51-35 victory. And there's a happy man. We'll be right back. Bob McCormick, and as an alumni and a guy who used to wear that purple uniform, this must really be satisfying.
This is not just for the team. Frank, I got to tell you, it is for the whole CBC community who's backed us all year long, and I am so proud of these young men, the way that they've battled. And you know, when we set out 130 days ago to practice, we wanted it to culminate here in Columbia, and we're just so pleased with this outcome.
The inspiration of your basketball team this year, Larry's little brother Justin.
From day one, once we heard that he was going to Cleveland, you know, to get the heart surgery, and then when he came back and had to have the heart transplant, he was in our minds every day in practice and every single game, and we dedicated this whole season to him. And
today, Larry Hughes, when the whole state is watching, put on another great show.
He really did. I think the people that were in this arena and the viewers can certainly say that Larry Hughes is one of the top players in the state, and he really proved it today.
Bob, I thought your defense was outstanding. 13 of 41. The shooting for Truman, and they were 3 of 18 from three-point range. You were here yesterday, obviously, to see them shoot the basketball. They never got close to that today.
Yeah, that was the first time that I had seen them, and when I went back to the hotel, I checked the stats and realized that some of their players had really gone over their average, and you know, you're certainly going to respect that doing it in a semifinal game, but we really wanted to shade 32 and watch 52 on the inside. He got an early foul trouble, and it was really a difference.
And you prevented them from coming back like they did against Vashon in the semifinal game a day ago. I'm not even sure you had a field goal in the fourth period, but it turned out you didn't need one, did you?
Right. We didn't hit free throws early and made it difficult on ourselves, and they hung around at half, but we hit free throws late, and when you get the ball in Larry's hands, over on the sideline, I feel a little bit safer.
How special is this for you, a young man, such a young coach, to enjoy and experience this that so many veteran coaches never get to have in their lifetime?
Yeah, it really is, and that was one of the things that I thought about when I took the job at CBC was the young men that we had coming back, and I tell you what, I'm so proud of these guys, and they're the ones that deserve it, and it's just a sweet feeling.
And when you're an old man, when you're 80 years old, I think you're going to look back on 1997 as one of the best years of your life. Your son being born and in a state championship.
Yeah. You know what? I think about those two things every day in practice, and now that my son's 6 weeks old, and now that we have a state championship, I'm just going to savor this for a while and go back to the hotel and be with my team.
All right, Bob, congratulations. Thanks very much for a great season.
Frank.
That's Bob McCormick, the head coach at CBC. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Larry Hughes. We have a lot to talk about. Larry Hughes, first of all, your emotions. This is something you've thought about for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I expected to win state this year coming in. Everybody wanted to do what we were supposed to do. We came out and play hard, play defense first, and that's where it counts at.
There's a look at a proud young man today, your little brother, and you told me before the game you wanted to win this one for him.
Oh, yeah. Everything was for him. The whole team dedicated this season to him. And winning state for him, winning district for him. I mean, it's great for him to say, my brother did that for me. I love him for it, and I love my little brother, too.
What about today's game? Break it down. Why was CBC successful?
We played good defense. We held them to 19 points at halftime. And we played hard, and defense, that's where it's at to win championships.
Larry, a lot of guys talk about having success and winning a state title, and you talked about it throughout the season, but backed it up. You were not going to be denied this weekend, were you?
No. If I got here, I said, we're winning state. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If we made it in the Final Four, we were going to win state. So everything came out, as expected, and we did that.
Fourth period, you have the ball in your hands so much, and defensively, you create things. You like being ahead, and you're comfortable with the basketball, I guess, down the stretch like that, aren't you?
Yeah, I want the ball, every trip down court if I can get it. If we had 2 or 3 balls out there, we'd score a lot more, but I want the ball every time down the court, either to dish it off or score or get to the free throw line every time.
What do you think the first thing your little brother Justin will say to you when you see him later?
He'll probably say, good game, and that, I love you is always either the first or second thing comes out of his mouth every time I see him.
The 3 most important words you can say, my friend. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Larry, you've brought a lot of thrills to the city of St. Louis, but you're not through yet. A 4-year career about to begin at St. Louis University, and your impressions of that and how excited you are about that.
I'm very excited about it. I get to play with my high school teammate, Justin Tatum, Matt Boniak, and all those other guys down there that I know already. And I just want to go out this summer and get stronger, get faster, so I can make some impact in Conference USA.
This truly was one of the great years in high school basketball. A lot of great players. In fact, a player that'll be here next year, Johnny Parker Jr.
Oh yeah, this was a great season for St. Louis basketball, and the seniors. I think we did an excellent job of promoting St. Louis basketball and saying that we do have players in St. Louis, so people come out and watch us play.
And you and Johnny and Justin and Matt made it okay to say, hey, it's all right to stay in town for school.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of guys on the East Coast stay in their state, but you don't hear about it as much because they're big-name schools. Everybody needs to go where they're comfortable at and just play hard every time you step on the court.
So how do you celebrate tonight?
Oh, man, it's party time when we get back to St. Louis.
All right, Larry, you deserve it. Thanks so much for a great season.
Thanks.
All right, that's Larry Hughes. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. Frank Cusimano and Gus Trevino back at the Hearn Center, where CBC has won a state championship 51-35 over Truman. And Chris, coming into this basketball game, Truman's margin of error was not great. They had to play a near perfect game against a pretty athletic team like CBC, and they didn't play at their best today.
No, needed to shoot the ball better. They shot so well in the semifinal win over St. Louis Vashon. Not even close to that today, though. 13 of 41. That's about 31% from the field. Look down at the three-point field goal, shooting 3 of 18. That's about 17% from the field. 14 turnovers, and they're out-rebounded 29-21. Really a thorough victory for CBC over Truman, and CBC with a couple of great players, of course. Larry Hughes and Justin Tatum really had a terrific combination performance today as they played so well. Hughes with 26 points and all the rebounds and assists, and then Justin Tatum with 11 points and 13 rebounds. Also a couple of blocks, a couple of steals. You can see why so many people in St. Louis are excited about those two individuals. And Frank, we've done these games together now the last 3 years. As St. Louis basketball really has dominated the championship game. When you look at St. Charles West a few years ago in '95, Webster Groves in '96, and here CBC in '97. I thought you made a great point about the individual players. All those teams were great teams, but led by great players. Ryan Robertson of St. Charles West, who's at Kansas. Last year, Johnny Parker and Tate Decker, who both will play for the University of Missouri next season. And here today, of course, Justin Tatum and Larry Hughes, who will head to St. Louis U. So there have been some very special players in those St. Louis schools, leading them to the state titles.
There's no question, and it wasn't just great players, but great players having big games. Ryan Robertson hit the big threes to beat Vashon in the fourth quarter, and of course Johnny Parker Jr. just put on a clinic last year in the finals. So the great players stepped up and had huge games. All right, we are going to bring in now the head coach at Truman. Coach, come on in. We're joined by Steve Broughton. Coach, thanks for joining us, and another wonderful run by your team. I imagine, though, you wanted to see him a little bit sharper in a big game like this. This wasn't your best performance today.
Yeah, we didn't shoot the ball very well, but you got to give them a lot of credit. I think they did a good job of guarding us and playing in the zone. So.
And I guess the toughest break for you today was Will Palmer, your best player, a guy coming in averaging 20, shooting 60% from the field, and he's not a factor because of foul trouble.
Yeah, he got some early fouls, and we've had to do that, play without him all year long at certain times in the games. We just didn't shoot the ball well enough to win. Got to give them a lot of credit for that.
Coach, you've played high school basketball in the state of Missouri. You've been a coach here at Truman for quite a bit now. You've seen great players. Where does Larry Hughes rank in terms of the great players you've seen?
Well, he had an awful good game today. You know, he's as good as I've seen, and I'm sure he'll be a good college player also. He's a big difference in the game today.
Steve, a little more about your ball club, though. I know you have high expectations, and rightly so, as any coach would and probably should, for his or her basketball team. But last year we saw you here in the semifinals. Now you make it to the finals. I guess it does give you something to shoot for one step further next season,
maybe
perhaps.
So. Yeah, it's a long way away, and it's very hard to get back here, but we're going to give it a good shot. We got some good players coming back.
But you've brought your team a long ways. That's some pretty stiff competition. The likes of Raytown South and Hickman Mills, for example, the two teams you beat to get here. Things are progressing rather well in Independence at Truman High School.
We played well, and I wish we'd have played a little better this afternoon, but that's the way it goes. And like I said, I give CBC a lot of credit for that.
Well, they're an outstanding team, and congratulations on a great season on
Thanks
your
a lot.
part. Maybe we'll see you here again next year.
So.
All right.
Right.
Well, we know one another by now, that's for sure.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Coach, before we let you go, we asked Becky Oakes this. We've asked Floyd Irons this. We'll finish with you. There is some talk around the state that they want to separate the private state championship with the public state championship. Would you like to see that?
I haven't thought about it enough to really give you an opinion on that. I like having them all here. You know, I don't mind playing CBCs, the Vashons, but that's something that they need to talk